Welcome, and in this video we'll look at crypto and Theranos investors, and pontificate if they are dupes or not. Crypto investors are a hardy lot. Or maybe they are just greedy. Recently China banned all cryptocurrency transactions for its citizens. If you are a Chinese citizen living in mainland China, it is now illegal for you to buy, trade, or own cryptocurrencies. The Chinese government went and plugged a loophole, which had allowed its citizens to transact in cryptocurrencies, using offshore accounts and exchanges. Now exchanges like Binance have stopped allowing people with Chinese mobile numbers to open accounts with them, or trade in crypto. But all is not lost, it seems, at least for the opportunistic. So we have a Bloomberg report talking about taking risks, and living the crypto life. These policies are not new to us, so we view them as a buy signal, said Stephen, a Shanghai-based crypto investor who preferred to be identified by his first name only. He bought $20,000 of Bitcoin over the weekend, he said, adding that it's still possible via many centralized and over-the-counter exchanges. The Chinese government's crackdown lowered the price of Bitcoin. And many are viewing this as an opportunity to buy more on the cheap. They are counting on the likelihood that the Chinese government won't implement an outright ban on the holding of digital assets, because it would be too difficult to enforce. The moral here may be that investing, in general, is the game of predicting the future, and then betting on the most likely outcome. You win, if your prediction turns out to be accurate. Which investors are not dupes? Broadly speaking, there are two types of investors. One is those who have a lot of money to start with. Let's call them the rich investor. Frequently, they look to invest large amounts. They conduct due diligence, and ask many questions of the target business. This additional information, which is usually not readily available otherwise, allows for a more informed decision-making. Rich investors also hire professional advisors, who help collect and pass such information. They also hire lawyers, who draw up bespoke contracts. And target businesses have to agree to them, before they get any money from rich investors. They also get to sit on the board of the target company, so that they can keep an eye on the goings-on, and ensure that their money is put to good use. All this is fairly standard. On the other hand, there are many investors who do not have a lot of money. Usually they invest relatively modest amounts, so let's call them modest investors. It is quite uncommon for them to hire professional advisors and lawyers. And they may not have the time or inclination to conduct a thorough due diligence on the target business. A meaningful way for modest investors to put their money to work is to pool it, and then invest. If the pooled money is substantial enough, it can pretend to be a rich investor and do rich investor things, like hire professional advisors and do due diligence, hire lawyers and draw up bespoke contracts. Such a pool is often called a mutual fund, and it does many of those things. However, modest investors can and do invest based on their own goals and risk appetite. Sometimes there are bad outcomes, where we have stories about people investing in Evergrande's wealth management products because they saw ads in elevators. That is probably not the best way to do it. Governments and regulators across the world work hard towards preventing such poor outcomes for their citizens. A good example is the Securities and Exchange Commission of the United States, which frequently sues bad actors who may have duped their investors, especially modest investors. It is interesting to note that whether the investors are rich or modest is an important question to answer in many such lawsuits. The basic premise is that modest investors do not always have the best access to information, or a way to process a lot of it, to make appropriate decisions, and as a result, may be duped by bad actors. Rich investors, on the other hand, can and do all those things. They do due diligence, hire advisors and lawyers, sit on the board of the company, etc. And if they still fail to grasp the risk appropriately, part of it is probably their fault too. So we have the jurors in the Theranos trial trying to determine if its investors were dupes or savvy speculators. The Wall Street Journal, reporting on the matter, writes, Theranos' investors, who bet almost $1 billion on the company and lost nearly all of it, are a disparate group. A professional football team owner, a media magnate, a Mexican tycoon, a four-star military general, a Greek shipping heir and the family office of a billionaire Republican Party donor, who all invested alongside the hedge funds and venture capital firms that more traditionally back startups. And, As is not unexpected, Miss Holmes's lawyers have pointed to the wealth and success of Theranos's investors, to argue that they were well equipped to understand the risk of a speculative bet on nascent technology. Which kind of makes sense to me. Luckily, I don't have to decide anything, and whatever my own thoughts are, have zero bearing on the outcome of this case. So that's it for this video. A like would be much appreciated, if you enjoyed it. And do consider subscribing, as it helps out the channel a lot. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.